Looks like we're live. Let's give this just a second to kind of stabilize, make sure we got a good connection. Everybody's good to go. And yeah, mile high. Hello, everybody in Broncos country, and welcome into another episode of the Dove Valley Deep Divers Live podcast. My name is Lance Sanderson, and joining me, as always, is my good friend and colleague. He is your Denver Broncos insider and Mile High Huddle senior NFL draft analyst, Erick Trickel. Erick, there's a lot of stuff going on right now regarding the Broncos, and obviously last night after we got done recording and having our conversation with Nick, we got to see the news drop about defensive lineman Shelby Harris signing back with the Broncos on a 1-year, $3.25 million deal. The terms of the deal has come out that it's going to be $2.5 million guaranteed with another, $750,000 in escalators and incentives that can be earned. It's a big move for the Broncos. Maybe not necessarily the one that aligns with your heartstrings quite as much. We'll get to that one here in just a minute. But Erick, this is big news for the Broncos, man. What do you think?
I actually really like it. So a lot of people thought that I hated Shelby Harris for this last season because I always talked about how he wasn't worth the value. And basically what that was is that he was being talked about getting $13-14 million on an average period basis. There's some word that the Colts were willing to go in that range, and they decided, hey, let's go get DeForest Buckner instead. And so they did that. And basically from there, Harris's market was non-existent. And so with that, with what he signed back for, I'm actually excited for. I think this is really good value for the Broncos. He definitely played better last year than what this contract suggests. Like, he definitely deserved a lot more. But I like the fact that he was willing to come back, which is what shocks me the most.
Yeah,
I had a lot of conversations about it that he kind of shut the door on Denver. But glad he's back. I mean, it helps the depth about it, and I like the fact that with Shelby Harris in town, it still doesn't completely take defensive line off an early need. Like, depending on how the board falls, if the three receivers are gone, Derek Brown or Javon Kinlaw are there, they should still be considered because Mike Purcell and Shelby Harris are only 1-year deals. Jarrell Casey's 30. So there's still a reason for it. But it's to that point where they don't have to go get a defensive lineman. They can really sit there and let the board fall to them, which is one reason why I really like this contract. Great value. I like Harris. I'm excited to see what he can do. And I think this is a good deal for him in the aspect that after the season, he's able to build upon last year, potentially show more consistency, and then get a chance to go get a bigger contract next year, provided things go back to normal.
Yeah, and I mean, it's such a bargain signing for the Broncos. It really is. I mean, what was he asking for? Like $13 million or something like that was what he was going to be potentially getting with the Colts, I think was the deal that we had kind of heard about. So to get him back on, a $2.5 million cap figure, that's actually a pretty good deal for the Broncos. And you're absolutely right with the inconsistencies in his play, especially getting after the quarterback, not necessarily holding up the best against the run. I mean, obviously with his hands up in the air, knocking down a lot of passes, 9, I think it was last year, something like that. But 6 sacks, 3 of those came in Minnesota. So there's a lot of inconsistency with his game. You just never really know. And honestly, there was a little bit of an aspect of him playing out of position, especially early in the year. They were trying to play him at that nose tackle, the 0-1 tech, get him on the interior pass rush instead of actually playing that nice 5 tech that he actually excels in. So maybe Vic Fangio learned just a little bit from him, and Donatell did as well. And they're actually going to put him at that 5 tech position next to Mike Purcell and opposite of Jarrell Casey. And maybe we're actually going to see a little bit more of an effective Shelby Harris. And maybe next year we might be talking about that double-digit million season for him again. So now on the other side of this really, obviously with the news that we heard earlier today with Derek Wolfe signing a 1-year, $6 million deal in Baltimore, yeah, it's kind of hard to see a legend of the Broncos go, but the injury concerns and everything like that, I'm really happy for Derek Wolfe to be able to go out, sign a deal. Yes, it's still physical pending, and we're going to kind of figure out how that plays out over the next few days. But I'm glad. You know what? He went out and got a minor payday, a little prove-it deal on a contending team. I mean, this is a very good Baltimore Ravens team. I'm happy for Derek Wolfe.
I am too. And before I really get into that, I just gotta say the chat's making me laugh with Jeff.
Yeah,
Draft Guru plus Lance. That's making me laugh, you guys. Thanks for that. But yeah, with Derek Wolfe, I'm excited for him. He was my favorite player on the Broncos the last few years. Absolutely loved him. He was actually the only player on the Broncos whose jersey I have that was still on them. I also got Duke Iannachos and Julius Thomas's way back when. And it was all 3 of them. So I'm very excited for him. I'm bummed that he didn't come back to Denver. I think I would have preferred Denver go and offer him like a 1-year, $6 million deal, just a little bit. But I mean, with the value they got for Shelby Harris, I can't blame them for going that way. It's just kind of with Derek Wolfe, it's definitely sentimental there. That reason why I wish that. Glad he went to Baltimore. glad he got good money, provided he passes the physical and nothing happens there. And I absolutely love the fact that he's going to have a chance to compete for another ring in Baltimore as well on a very stacked defensive line. So really wouldn't be surprised if he has a great year there and then tries to capitalize again next year, much like Shelby Harris. Super excited for him. Glad he did. Wish him nothing but the best. He's one player. I love his story. I loved his everything. I loved him pre-draft. He was a guy that I was talking about as a first-round pick prior to that draft. Absolutely love him. Big fan of his. I mean, I actually have his mini helmet autograph sitting in my office just off to the side of me as well of his. So definitely a big fan of his and very happy for him. It's hard sentimentally, though, to see him go.
Well, you have that helmet picture. It didn't actually happen. No, I'm just playing. But
I can go grab it. Just right over there.
You're good, man. It's the sentimental side of things and seeing a guy like that. And he's very well respected, not only in the locker room and also with the media. I mean, this is a very straightforward, no BS kind of a guy. He's going to tell you how it is. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks, and he's not going to mince his words when he does so. I mean, sometimes you might get a little bit in trouble with the Broncos PR on how he actually says some things, but that's actually a very candid way of going about business. I mean, we're not getting into the coach speak, the simple cliches and stuff like that. That makes me respect Derek Wolfe a lot more, and I hope he's going to fit in with that Baltimore team very well. Now, guys, we're going to move this conversation forward, get to some of your guys' questions, but first, a couple matters of business here. We do have to remind you all to follow the show at DVDD_pod. It's a good way for you guys to just keep up with what we're doing with the show. Any plans we have, unfortunately, we had wanted to get Coach Luke Polglaze on tonight, but some scheduling issues came up with that. So we're looking forward to that probably next week. But anyways, also make sure you guys are following us. You can follow me at Sanderson MHH, and for Eric at Erick Trickel. Notice the CK in Eric. Also follow at Huddle Up Pod for updates on all of the shows. You can get Building the Broncos, the Huddle Up podcast, all the updates on everything. Make sure you guys are following that so you can get any live updates as well. And also follow at Mile High Huddle so you can get instant updates, breaking news, analysis, great opinion articles, film breakdowns, and stuff like that on your Denver Broncos. Now, to get to some of these comments, and we're going to see some more of these questions rolling in here. Actually, Bawana Beast has a pretty good comment here. It was the Brockers deal falling through that made the Ravens the obvious spot. It was his number one choice outside of Denver. Now, I heard that the Texans had obviously some interest as well, but I saw a very interesting tweet regarding the Michael Brockers deal and what Derek Wolfe had signed with the Ravens regarding just how it broke down. I mean, Baltimore got an equal quality of a player, I think, in a better deal. They're saving, $18 million in guarantees. They're not going to have a long-term impact with him as far as going towards the future. So this 1 year, it's actually a really good move for the Ravens as well.
It is. And, I mean, I'm trying to be not as sentimental about it because, I mean, Derek Wolfe, as I said, was my favorite player. But I do wish that they got Brockers just maybe for Denver to have a chance to keep Wolfe. But it is what it is. And, yeah, definitely not getting Brockers that put them back out there on the market for another defensive lineman, a guy who can play that 5-tech, 3-tech role for them. And that's definitely Derek Wolfe. And he brings plenty of power to do that. And so I definitely love the fact that he's going there. I love what the move for the Ravens. I love the move for everybody that's involved. Like, it's a good, smart move for a team that's looking at contending next year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and like you said earlier, that defensive line is actually absolutely stacked. I mean, they've got some weapons to work with, so it's a great fit, I think. So it's going to be really, really fun to see what happens with that. Now, Miller 707 champ. Let's see here. It just skipped on me, so give me just a second. I'm sorry. Miller 707 champ comes in. He says, with Harris re-signing, does that take Brown or Kinlaw off the table for us? I'm assuming at number 15 or potentially trading up. Eric, go ahead. Before we get to that question, go ahead.
So I just want to say, Terry, yeah, I know I'm not wearing a tie. I was actually trying to find my Derek Wolfe jersey to wear it, and I couldn't find it, so I just ended up not having the time. I had to throw on a jacket real quick. Otherwise, we would have missed the podcast. So, yeah, I know I don't have a tie on it, but my tie still rock. I could put my tie on, I suppose. So just wear it with a jacket, just leave it nice.
This is what makes this.
There we go. I got the tie now. But anyways,
With Harris re-signing, does that take Brown or Kinlaw off the table for us at 15 or potentially a trade up? Eric, you kind of touched on this just a little bit. Now, I mean, we always say it, and as your draft guys, and obviously Eric is the draft guru plus Lance, according to the chat. But as the draft guys on Mile High Huddle, it really does just kind of depend on how the board falls. Now, if Derek Brown falls to anywhere that the Broncos can go and get him, or potentially falls to number 15, Javon Kinlaw, either one of those guys, it really just kind of aligns with it depends on how the board actually falls. The top wide receivers are gone. The offensive linemen are gone. Quarterbacks are gone or available, whatever may have you. It's just if Javon Kinlaw is the best player available or Derek Brown is the best player available at 15, absolutely. Why would you not bring in another interior pass rusher to pair with Bradley Chubb and Von Miller and also Jerry Atauchu, who signed on a very team-friendly deal earlier this week?
Yeah, I mean, in the case of Derek Brown especially, is Denver's still a little bit lacking at nose tackle, and that's what Derek Brown's best spot is. So definitely shouldn't take him off the board. I mean, Shelby Harris, we know he can't handle nose tackle. Jarrell Casey, maybe he can, but I'm not betting on that. I'm going to leave him where he's going to be. Draymond Jones, he definitely can't. So it's definitely going to be a thing of if Derek Brown's there, yeah, they should get him. It shouldn't take him off the board. Javon Kinlaw is a little bit rougher because he is definitely a guy who's that defensive end. Even though some people think that he can play nose tackle, and I think he can depending on the situation, I think that it would just be better to leave him as a 5-tech in the defensive front. So it might make him a little bit rougher of a fit there. But it shouldn't take him either. And it just comes down to the fact, too, that you have Mike Purcell, 1-year deal. You have Shelby Harris, a 1-year deal. There's still questions about the future at the position that you still have to address. Getting a guy at 15, depending on how the board falls, that's what it all comes down to. Depending on how the board falls, shouldn't take defensive line off the board.
No, absolutely. And as David Cromwell, a good friend of the show, comes in and says, no, all options need to be on the table for Denver in round 1. Trade up, stay put at 15, take the best player available, trade back. I mean, there's a lot of things, and the Broncos are in a very fluid situation. They're doing a really good job of filling out all of the holes that they had on this roster. And Eric, you kind of said in our group chat with Nick and Carl that the Broncos are doing another really good thing like they always do, and going into the draft without having any major pressing needs. Shelby Harris coming back on this 1-year deal does fill another need, especially with the depth of the interior of the defensive line. So now on the flip side of that coin, there is still a need at the wide receiver position. Is there any other potential targets that the Broncos could look at in free agency to come in and fill the void?
I mean, if you're looking at wide receiver for that, then maybe you look at like a Paul Richardson. He has good speed. Injuries are definitely a big concern. A 1-year veteran minimum deal with no guaranteed money just because of the injuries. Maybe that. Maybe you go and get Taylor Gabriel, who there's some experience or some connection there between him and Vic Fangio. Off the top of my head, there's Robinson, I think. Robinson who was with the Chiefs last year. He can come in and provide more depth to the receiver spot. So there's definitely options that you can get. They can go out there and look. And in my opinion, if they really want to go in the draft without any major glaring needs, then go get a receiver and go get a cornerback and call it good. I mean, third safety is still not ideal, but right. Marco can be just fine there.
Yeah.
So it's still not a glaring need. So that's what it comes down to is you don't want to go into the draft without glaring needs.
Yeah, exactly.
Robinson resigned with Casey on a 1-year deal. I did not know that. Thank you.
I didn't know that. There was actually another comment, and I'm going to go back up and see if I can find it really fast. And it was asking if the Broncos had signed a couple of linebackers in the past 48 hours. And according to the knowledge that I have, which is it's not nearly as extensive as Eric's, I don't know. I haven't heard of anything that as far as that.
Joe Jones was definitely brought back. That was official. Okay. Joel Heath was just a defensive end in the Broncos scheme. He's a 5-tech. He's a guy that the Broncos claimed just before the end of the season, and they didn't tender him or anything like that. He's a restricted free agent, but they brought him back, and I don't know if there was another linebacker or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Those I know.
Yeah, I missed the Joe Jones signing completely, so I apologize for that. Now, getting back to the chat here, Cody Chepa on YouTube comes in and says, should we get a top center in round 2? Not sure how strong they are on Pat Morris. Now, according to what Eric has heard coming out of Dove Valley, Mike Munchak is very, very high on Pat Morris as a pet project of his, I believe, coming back from Pittsburgh, if I do remember correctly. So we might see something like that happen. But with Patrick Morris coming in and potentially filling that starting center role, it really kind of depends on what the Broncos want to do with Graham Glasgow, who they just brought in on a 4-year, $40 million, something like that. So it depends. Is Glasgow going to play center, or is he going to play right guard? And we all know that the Broncos are very high on Elijah Wilkinson at right guard as well. Now, speaking specifically to the top centers, I'm assuming you guys are talking about Cesar Ruiz out of Michigan and Lloyd Cushenberry III. Outside of that, I know Erick is very high on a guy out of Washington in Nick Harris. So that might not be necessarily at the second round, maybe third round value. Erick, what do you think?
Well, there's a couple of things I want to address too after this, but with center is Denver is definitely very high on Patrick Morris too, where it's not an obvious need. Graham Glasgow, he is going to be filling in that right guard spot, depending on how else falls. Maybe they miss out on a guy like Cesar Ruiz, which word going around is that they do like him in that second round. Maybe they miss out on Matt Hennessy, who's another name to really watch for with the Broncos. I don't think Nick Harris, as much as I like him, he's very scheme specific, and he doesn't fit with what the Broncos want to do up front. So if they miss out on a couple of these guys, I can see them going and going after a guard later on and moving Glasgow inside. But I think right now the plan is to have him at right guard and going and getting a center later. Definitely some good options in the draft still. And just real quick, there's a couple of things. Jody Moncrief, you come in and say Joel Heath can play nose. Joel Heath plays about 290 pounds. That's not good enough for the nose tackle spot. It's definitely a sub package situation, which is what the Broncos do with Draymond Jones right now a little bit, or last year anyways. And just depending on like a third and long situation, they kind of have him there. But I don't see him being a option there full time. Somebody asked if it's starting to get dark full-time here in Alaska. The answer is no. It's actually starting to become light full-time. The winter months is typically when it's darker. And then a couple people commenting about the tie and everything. Thank you, guys. I like wearing the ties. Hey, you guys asked for it. I had to put it on. And then Willie Naylor came in and says, just starting the donations. Love you guys. Hashtag Erick's Tie Rock. Yes, it does. Hashtag Insight Sanderson. There you go, Lance.
There we go. I got my hashtag finally. Look at that. Hey, Willie, thank you for coming in with the donation, man. We appreciate you guys. We appreciate all you guys for joining us in the episode today. Bawana, obviously, Willie, Miller 707. Everybody, thank you all for joining us today. Let's see here.
Whoa, hold on. Coming in from Saudi Arabia. You guys are awesome. Hashtag state of being. This is obvious proof that Broncos country isn't a geographic location. It is a state of being. Thank you for joining us from all the way over in Saudi Arabia. Hope you guys are doing good over there.
Just a quick question for you, Raid. What time is it there? I'm actually kind of curious. What time is it there? It is 6:19 right now p.m. on Mountain Time, so at 8:19 p.m. Eastern. So I'm just curious, what time is it there? Are you staying up late night to check out this episode, or what's going on? Johannes Bias coming in says Logan Ryan as a safety is a great idea. Okay, I could see that. I could see the switch over to safety for Logan Ryan. Erick, I know you're not necessarily high on him as a corner. I know that he had a very bad year this last year, but a lot of turnovers to his name. It could potentially be a scheme fit. Let's just see how it kind of works out there.
Yeah, I actually really like hold on, you dropped the question for me.
Oh, sorry.
With Logan Ryan, I actually really like the idea of Logan Ryan moving to safety. I think that at this point of his career, that's what's going to be best for him. I have an issue with the receiver who, yeah, he had 6 interceptions last year, led the NFL, but he also gave up almost 1,000 yards receiving. That is a huge number for cornerbacks. It was the most of any cornerback last year. That is a lot of yards to give up. I mean, by yourself, giving up almost 1,000-yard receiver, I'll pass on that. And as much as 6 interceptions does help, 6 interceptions doesn't cover the fact of all the other mistakes that he had in his play. I think safety would be a good fit for him. I think that he has the IQ to play safety in the NFL and be able to pick it up pretty quickly. So I really like the idea of safety. Not sure if Denver will be the fit for him there, but I do like that idea a lot.
All right, so let's see. We got a super chat here. Thank you, Stu. Thank you very much, Stu. We appreciate you, man, coming in on Mile High Huddle's Mount Rushmore, as Erick or as Chad likes to say. Always consistent, Stu. We appreciate you, big dog. Thank you for joining us again tonight. There was actually a really good question. It just came up. Here it is. Where is Logan Wilson, the linebacker from Wyoming, projected to go? I grew up playing sports against him. Would love to see him in blue and orange. Keep up the great work. Now, Chris, I'm kind of curious as to where you grew up in Wyoming. Oh, sorry. And I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I would really like Logan Wilson here. He's one of my favorite players in this class because I am from Wyoming. I follow the Wyoming Cowboys very, very specifically. That they're obviously my favorite team. But with Logan Wilson, great coverage linebacker, 10 career interceptions, over 400 total tackles. It fits the scheme very well. Eric, where do you think he's going to go in the NFL draft? Is he a third rounder or fourth round pick?
I think that he is looking right there on the cusp of being a top 100 pick. Like, I know there's some teams that really like him, but it's always going to depend on how the board falls. I hate saying that because it feels like such a cop out, but it really is true. So hard to project about it. Project with that, but yeah, I do like him. I think that would be the range to go. And I know that Lance, that's the reason why you picked that question is because he played for Wyoming. But yeah, I like Logan Wilson. I like what he brings. I think that he would be a good fit with the Broncos defense, but I'm just not sure they would be looking at a linebacker that early. It really depends on what they do at the safety position. They're definitely looking at another safety because Vic Fangio has made a comment about potentially going to more defensive backs to help cover the issues of linebackers covering. And I know that Will Parks signed for cheap, and there's a couple of comments about this. I just want to address this real quick as well. As Will Parks did sign for a very cheap deal to return back to Philadelphia, his home area, for a chance to start. There were teams that were offering him more money for a chance to compete for a number 3 spot, but he wanted that chance to start. 1-year deal. He's going to be able to try and capitalize off that and go into the free agency next year and try to get that big contract he thought he might get this year. But I think that the odds of him returning to Denver were very low.
Yeah, I mean, just for the opportunity for him to start in Philadelphia, and not only that, the guy is a philanthropist, philanthropist off of the field. Excuse me for that. I mean, he does a lot of community work, and he really loves the city of Philadelphia. It's where he's from. He's born and raised there, and to go back home and to be able to provide that off the field impact. And I mean, sure, he didn't take the greatest amount of money, but he's still going to be able to go back and impact the area where he grew up. Like, that's a big piece of this, a big piece of the puzzle there. I don't fault Will Parks. I love Will Parks. I was very high on Will Parks coming out in, 2016, I believe, 2016, 2017, something like that. I mean, Pro Football Focus called him it was like his sophomore year, called him the number 1 rated slot coverage cornerback in all of college football. I mean, the guy could play. And he had lapses in coverage. I think they kind of used him in too many different ways. A lot of like what happened with, and I'm not going to compare the players, but just the situations here with Minkah Fitzpatrick down in Miami. They just use him in so many different roles and so many different areas that you can never actually find your one true niche. And with Will Parks, I think that he was a better niche as that box safety, and rather than playing all over the formation. And look at what Minkah Fitzpatrick has done in Pittsburgh after they traded him up there. He's became one of the top safeties in the NFL. Not saying that Will Parks is that kind of a player. Minkah Fitzpatrick is obviously extremely special. But at the same time, Will Parks was kind of miscast, and now he has an opportunity to go home, get an opportunity to start and play in a role that actually suits his skill set, and also be a philanthropist off the field and do what he does best. Now, Terry Randall coming in with a $5 donation. Thank you, Terry. Again, coming from Canada, showing that Broncos country is not a geographic location. It is the hashtag state of being. Great show as always. If we stay at 15, get a wide receiver, do we trade back into the second and double up on a wide receiver? This is actually kind of an interesting question. I'm not sure. Are you saying do they trade up from 46 or do they trade back into the second round? So saying like, let's go get a wide receiver at 15, like a Justin Madubuike kind of a guy at 46, then trade back up to go get another wide receiver that might be falling? Or are you saying just double down on wide receiver, period? Eric, what do you think?
I think that with the Broncos, if they're able to land one of the top 3 receivers at 15, I don't think they'll move up for it, either back into the first or back into the second. I think they'll kind of see how the board falls down. I absolutely would love the idea of them moving up to like 10 or 11, getting Ruggs, because I don't think Ruggs will fall to 15. Getting him and then pairing him with Devin Duvernay. I absolutely love that idea. I've been a lot of my mocks are playing with that around that. I'm actually working on my latest mock, which taking free agency into consideration. So that's actually something that I'm working on now. And spoiler alert, something like that does kind of happen. Yeah. But I definitely like the idea of it. But I think that with this draft class, outside of trading up for one of the top 3, I wouldn't trade up. I'd let the board fall, see how it goes.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, Cody Chepa coming in, and he's asked this question twice, so I want to grab it. Have you heard anything on Steve Atwater's nephew? You were asking in regards to Jeremy Chin, the safety from Southern Illinois? right? I think so. Yeah, I think that's where it's at. He could be a good third safety option. Now, a lot of people are getting very high on Jeremy Chinn, and there's a lot of people saying that he could potentially be. Look at this guy going for the second tie. Anyways, they're saying that Jeremy Chinn could be an option for the Broncos in the second round. I mean, there's a lot of people saying that Jeremy Chinn is rising into that second round category. Extremely athletic, hits like a hammer. I mean, the guy comes downhill just extremely aggressively. Would be a really good piece to replace Kareem Jackson in a couple of years. Eric, is that too rich for Jeremy Chinn at 46 overall?
I don't think it is. And I'm trying to think of something. I don't want to spoil too much from my mock draft that I'm working on, but he's the guy that I'm definitely looking at in that second round. 46, I don't think is too rich at all. I've had a lot of conversation about him going in the first round even. I mean, this is a guy who he ran super fast. He has just so much versatility for a defense. You could use him in as a safety. You can use him deep as a safety. You can use him in the box. You can use him in the nickel. You can use him as a linebacker. You can use him as a boundary corner, according to some teams that I've talked to. So there's definitely plenty of options for him. I absolutely love him. He is probably one of my favorite. I think he's actually my second favorite safety fit for the Broncos in this. And I do that because I'm not sure he's really just a safety in the Fangio scheme. But right behind Terrell Burgess out of Utah, he's my second favorite guy for the Broncos.
Oh, awesome. That's actually a good name drop right there. I really love Terrell Burgess. Good fit there as well. Now, Robert Caslow coming in, and he says, I saw an article that said the Broncos are stunting Drew Lock's development because the Broncos haven't got a wide receiver in free agency. Thoughts? I don't know. This is one of the ones where I'm kind of not quite sure on because, as Eric said, I mean, you could go get a Taylor Gabriel, you could go get a Paul Richardson kind of guy, but this draft class is so heavily stacked at the wide receiver position. They're not doing Locke a disservice. I think they're trying to find not necessarily a bargain type of a player, but at the same time, they're trying to work around the cap as much as they can. And this wide receiver class is so good. It's so, I mean, you have 19, 20 guys in your top 100, Eric? I mean, there's an opportunity for the Broncos to go out and get a young guy that can to have a day one impact, not only in round 1 and 2, but possibly even on day 3. So, I don't know. It's hard for me to agree with that, but I can see where the take is coming from.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't really agree. It's just, I don't know. It's a little bit rough for me. We'll have to come back to that because I just really can't.
Okay, well, give me just a second here. There was another good.
You asked about this earlier. 3:23 a.m. in Saudi Arabia. Man, thank you so much for staying up so late to watch us, man. I know by 3:23 a.m. I am snoring like crazy. So thank you, man. That's actually very awesome, man.
Yeah, again, it is awesome.
As I said earlier, you're proof that Broncos country isn't a geographical location, but it is a state of being.
Glenn Hauser coming in and says Lance might be solely responsible for pushing Logan Wilson up the draft boards. I mean, I might be. I've been pounding the table for Logan Wilson for quite some time. Let's see. There was a good one here regarding the cornerbacks, and specific here it is from Miller 707 Champ. I'm still curious why Denver hasn't picked up Amukamara yet. I'm starting to think that they aren't interested unless he signed somewhere and I missed it. As last that I've known, Prince Amukamara is still on the market. The Broncos are definitely interested. We actually kind of asked this question, and I'm going to bring it up to you guys as well. Give me some of your takes in the chat really fast, and maybe we'll bring some of those comments up as well. But last night I asked you and Nick Kendall if the Broncos had any option, and they do right now, of signing Bashaud Breeland, formerly of Kansas City, Darqueze Dennard, who had his contract voided out by the Jaguars earlier this week and is now a free agent again this year, or Prince Amukamara, who would you be willing to sign and why? Which would be your preference? So go ahead and just answer that in the chat here if you can.
Cody Chepa came in.
Oh, go ahead. Where's that?
I saw the Adrian Killens question. I want to get that too. But Cody Chepa comes in. Is it possible we get a draft day special with all the MHH guys on the pod? Not sure about all the MHH guys, but there's definitely something in the works on it. Not sure who all will be there, but I don't want to say you can guarantee on me being there, but it's a good chance that I'll probably be on there. Lance, I'm not sure about. I mean, I don't care for Lance, so no, not sure who it is, but we're definitely going to be doing something about that. And then, before we get to this, I actually like this one. Gary Smith asks, Nashville, Tennessee, Broncos fan. Eric, are you any relations with Dick Trickel, former NASCAR driver? Yes, I am, actually. We spell our name differently because somewhere along the line, somebody in my family decided to flip the L and the E. But yeah, he is like my third or fourth cousin or something like that. But yeah, that's actually pretty awesome. I mention that a lot, and people don't ever pick it up.
Well, you learn something new every day. John Santos even coming in on YouTube. Excuse me. Hi, fellas. What are your thoughts on drafting Adrian Killians? I think he can be a weapon similar to Devin Hester. Now, Eric, I'm going to let you take this one away. You are the hashtag draft guru for Mile High Huddle. So go ahead. I am not sure about Adrian Killians.
I really like Adrian Killians. I don't like him just as a returner either with Devin Hester. I think he actually has a role on an offense. Really like him at running back. I like what he can bring. Plenty of speed there. I'm actually a big fan of him. He was a guy that I didn't really know much about until he caught my attention watching, I want to say the Shrine Bowl. It might have been the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. Can't remember which one he was in, but watching his practices and everything like that, he caught my eye. I went and found some tape of his to study. I am impressed. I think that this guy could end up being a good option in the NFL to bring some speed to it and having some plays drawn up just for him to get the ball and seeing what he can do.
Yeah. So going back to the question that we just asked, James Campbell, a good friend of mine from back a while ago on another website, I have to think Kamara would probably be the smartest play. Excuse me. Probably would it be the cheapest, knows the scheme, has chemistry with Callahan, especially with everything going on. You're absolutely right on that. And Noah Capella coming in as well, another friend of mine. I think Elway is waiting on money to sign Prince Amukamara, probably because he wants too much money currently. I don't know. So this was a reason why I asked this question was because based on the value that we saw with the Indianapolis Colts signing Xavier Rhodes the other day to a 1-year, $5 million deal. Man, I don't know. Is Xavier Rhodes that much more special or is Prince Amukamara that much more special than Xavier Rhodes, who was once widely considered one of the top cornerbacks in all of the NFL? I don't think so. I think that Denver could probably go get Prince Amukamara or even a Bashad Breeland for $6-7 million. Like why this move has not been announced so far, why everything has stalled, it's kind of beyond me. So Eric, if you know anything more than we do, feel free to share.
I think part of the reason is that Prince Amukamara does want a little bit more money. He was better last year than Xavier Rhodes. It was a down year for him compared to 2018, but it was still a solid year for him. And I think that he does want. I think that's going to lead him to wanting some more money. But I think that he's going to have to come down a little bit because basically the corner market's come to a halt. There's not much money going out there anymore. There's people aren't spending. It's going to be it's a corner. So another thing with this that I'm trying to say is the corner position in the NFL is about to get flooded with a lot of talent coming from college. And it's already a very flooded position in the NFL. There are a lot of, maybe not elite corners, but there are a lot of talented corners in the NFL. So I think that's going to play into him having to come down in price, if that is the issue. Not sure it is. And I think that's going to definitely be a thing that Denver's going to be examining, because maybe they just decided, hey, you want $7 million? We're just going to go get a corner and say round 3, round 4.
Well, and Chris Clark coming back in, I answered his question earlier. He says, I'm from Sheridan. Lance, where are you in Wyoming? Riverton. And how do you guys feel about Fulton from LSU? I only saw him in the playoffs, and I wasn't impressed. Now, Christian Fulton is a guy that there's been a lot of talk, and it was a while ago, about the Broncos being interested in at number 15. So there's a possibility there. And if the Broncos do deem it necessary to go and get a top guy like that, we're talking very scheme versatile. He's good in man, good in zone, tackles very well, very fluid. I like Christian Fulton a lot. Eric, is that a potential way the Broncos go? And yes, I understand how is the board going to fall, but is that a potential possibility the Broncos going and getting Christian Fulton at number 15?
I don't think Christian Fulton is, because there's one thing that you said that actually made me laugh a little bit. He's a good tackler. There's a lot of tackling issues there with me that just make it kind of be a little hesitant to take him. It's like CJ Henderson. Both of those guys, I mean, he's not as bad as Henderson, and there's a little bit more better technique there. Balance is a big concern, but it's just enough to just maybe, I'm not so sure about that. And so I don't know, at 15, maybe a trade down, maybe if he falls to 46. I've heard a lot of talk that he'll be like the 4th or 5th corner falling. And so we don't know. And guys, just so you know, you guys are cracking me up with your comments.
I'm dying reading these comments.
You guys are awesome, man. We appreciate you guys so much. You guys are awesome for bringing a smile to our faces right now.
It says, Ryan Hamilton says, I actually like that look, Eric. This is great. The double tie. I mean, Bawana said something earlier that I wanted to grab that and said, Eric has his ties pre-tied. What a hack. Like, this is just great. It's absolutely awesome. All right. Miller707 coming in and he says, besides Jeffrey Okudah, who is your favorite cornerback in the draft? I hope I spelled his name right. Not quite. It's an Okudah. But as far as and I'm fairly certain you and I share a brain on this one. As far as my specific favorite cornerback in this class, Jeff Gladney, TCU. Oh man, holy cow! The fluidity in his hips, the way that he can play it, on the ball, like play and press, play off the ball. He's not quite the toughest as far as getting his hands on people, misdirecting routes and everything, but he's got click and close ability. He can drive on the football. He can stick in your hip pocket. He's all over the place, and he's a damn good tackler. Like there's no question about that. He's a damn good tackler. I don't know if he even makes it into the second round. Like, let's be honest here. There's teams that are going to fall in love with him, and he's probably going to be a first-round pick. Unfortunately, I don't see that the Broncos are going to be able to get him. They'll probably have to trade back down. Put another hat on, Lance, he says. My goodness.
But, yeah, I definitely agree. I really love Jeff Gladney. I think that he's going to be tremendous. He is my number 2 cornerback on the board. I love everything he brings to the table. I think he could absolutely kill it and be exceptional in Vic Fangio's defensive scheme. He has all those traits that you want in a defense in that cornerback in the scheme. So I absolutely love him. I don't think he'll fall there. I think that teams are going to start coming around, seeing his length, his athleticism, his physicality. Even though he's a little bit on the smaller side, he's very physical. Just wanting to be a physical tackler, like always willing to challenge. All that stuff. Those are all traits that are going to be stand out to NFL teams and likely get him drafted a little bit higher. James Campbell says pre-tying a tie makes sense. Yes, it does. I also struggle with tying ties. So once it's tied, it stays tied. One of these ties has been tied since I graduated 10 years ago.
That's me. I pre-tie all my ties too. They're all hanging up over on the other side. James Campbell coming in with another question. We're gonna have just a couple more questions, guys. We're gonna have to get out of here really quick. So, any thoughts on Tanner Muse and Kenny Robinson? I really like the value of these hybrids, and Robinson looked good in the XFL. I believe he's draft eligible. Eric, go ahead, take it away.
I like Tanner Muse a little bit. I was actually very shocked with his combine. It made me go back and watch him a little bit more and watch his tape. So it's first watch, I wasn't super impressed. Second watch, I wasn't all that much more impressed, but there's definitely something there that I'm probably missing with him, because that kind of athleticism should show up on tape a lot more. Maybe it's just a freak thing. I mean, we do see that happen every now and then. So I'd be a little bit cautious. I do like him, so it's gonna be interesting. So I'm curious to see what his role is in the NFL because of the athleticism.
All right, here's a question directly for you from Mama Kelberman. Mama Kelberman, thanks for joining this show. We appreciate you. Hey, Eric, Zach's mom here. Can you please tell Zach that his papa is looking at drafting that Paxton Lynch in fantasy this year and wants to know if it's a good pick? Thanks from Mama Kelberman. What is it about this show? I swear, you know what? Everybody else has a little bit more seriousness, and you and I just come out here and we have a lot of fun. This has been a lot of fun tonight, guys. I really appreciate it. I appreciate everything about you guys. Jaden Torres coming in on YouTube. He says, do you trade up in the second to get Rugias or Cushenberry? I don't think so. I don't know. I don't think so. I don't like trading up. I don't like trading up. We've seen Elway trade up a couple times. I don't like trading up. It's just my personal thing. I'm with you. If you're going to do any trading in the draft, trade down, get some more value, add some more picks and stuff like that. I don't know, Eric. What do you think?
So I'm actually with you. I'm not all for trading up, but if I was trading up for a center, it'd definitely be Ruiz. I wouldn't trade up for Cushenberry, but it still comes down to I'm not trading up for a center. Like it's not that valuable of a position, and this year is actually pretty loaded at center, so just not that.
Let's see here. Everyone's just this is great.
The guys are dominating the conversation. So
whoa. Okay, we're gonna have to cut this short. I got a problem going on here.
All right, real quick, I do want to say that we do have to get out of here. Lance is having some mice issues, but
I got him out right now. He's all over the place.
So somebody asked them if I would wear a horse head. If I had one, I would. I would wear a horse head on this podcast. Like, oh yeah.
But give the people what they want.
All right, guys. This is gonna have to wrap it up for us. We got to get out of here.
We're laughing too hard. The conversation got a little bit too much fun. Guys, thank you all once again for joining us on the Dove Valley Deep Divers podcast. You can follow us both on Sanderson, on Twitter at Sanderson MHH, for Eric at Erick's Trickel. Notice the CK in Eric. Also, make sure you guys are following the show at DVDD_pod. Get your finger on what we've got going on. Next week, we are going to have Luke Polglaze join us once again, and then do another draft episode as well. And also, stay tuned, guys. As Eric said earlier, we are trying to work on something to get us into doing a live show for the draft. So we're not quite sure. We still got some semantics and some logistics to work out and stuff like that. We are going to do that as well. Also, we've got I've got a mock draft coming up as well. Big full first round fan driven mock draft. It's something I've been working on for the last few years. A really fun project. We're going to break that down as well, and also do another post free agency NFL mock draft using the Draft Network's mock draft machine. So stay tuned to that as well. Also, guys, before we get out of here, make sure you guys are following at Mile High Huddle for instant updates on your Denver Broncos. Get instant breaking news, analysis, film pieces, opinion articles, stuff like that. Any breaking news for the Broncos is going to show up at milehighhuddle.com. Go out and check out the website as well. Also, make sure to go on to huddleuppod.com and get your swag on, or at least that's how Chad would say it. Sounds like we're going to get some DVD merch coming in here soon as well. So, Eric, any last words before we get out of here?
Yeah, I want to say thank you guys so much for joining us as always, man. So much fun, especially tonight. Like this podcast was so much fun, and it's all because of you guys. So we appreciate that. And there was one other comment. I mean, you already covered about Lance or Luke coming on next week. That's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be talking about running backs, later round options for that. And then hashtag shenanigans. I saw that in the chat. Yeah, that's definitely one for both of us. We're definitely like that. Hashtag draft guru, and hashtag insight Lance. And and Buona Beast. Eric's face is doing Java for sure.
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, I'd be down for that. So, all right, guys. Thank you guys. All right, guys. We will see you guys next Friday, 6 p.m. Mountain Time. Thank you guys for coming, and have a wonderful night, and stay safe out there.